I am a former legionnaire. I served for 24 years and I've done a lot of other things. A legionnaire is simply a man who has decided to serve in a French army corps called the Foreign Legion, which has a rather special status, which even allows foreigners to serve under the arms of France, which is not generally possible worldwide. It's a specificity, it's a French excellence. I am doing my military service in the Italian Navy. I got married, had 2 children, I've always worked. My first wife, she was French, so we knew that here in France life was still safer. At the time in Italy, unemployment was non-existent. If you worked, it was good. If you didn't, you got nothing. So we came to France. You know, abroad, we don't know if it's a myth, just a legend. Yes, it existed, but does it still exist? I discovered that it really existed, and as I always wanted to do something anyway, either in the armed forces or in the police, it was really my childhood dream. Despite being 36, I saw a small opportunity. After discussing it with my wife and getting everyone's agreement, I decided to go for it. At 33, 34 years old, you could have already retired from the military. At 36 years old, I was beginning my military career instead of leaving. And not just in any army. But precisely, I never gave up. Contrary to what one might think, we are not persecuted, we are not tortured. I've heard some incredible nonsense about that. It's not true at all. The selection, you go to Aubagne, there is the security service that starts to investigate you. As soon as you present yourself, you are required to bring a valid passport by the identity card. Why? Because it's much harder to forge a passport than an identity card. And so, contrary to what one might think, the foreign region, France, does not want criminals in its ranks. So as soon as you arrive, on one hand, there is the military security that starts to investigate you, and on the other hand, we start a whole series, a quite significant battery of tests, physical tests, visits, medical analyses. Each test is eliminatory. If everything goes well, you get to the end of all your checks, and there is the last passage in front of the security offices. If you also pass this interview, you are hired. So from there, you will go to Castelnaudary, obliged to the 4th Foreign Regiment. That's where the training is done for the young legionnaires. We do the first 4 months or so of basic training. We will return to Aubagne, and there the brand new legionnaires will be assigned to one of the regiments of the Foreign Legion. As soon as you arrive at your final destination, you start over with the training platoon of the regiment where you are, and then you will be assigned to one of the units of the companies or squadrons. I was at the REC, it's the cavalry, so we have squadrons. It's the same thing as the company, and you start your life as a legionnaire. People think that we are thugs, that we are repentant, that we are people wanted by all the police in the world. Already there is a grain of truth. And then this truth has been amplified by all the movies, literature, songs, Hollywood, which has fully exploited this image of the lost person who will take refuge in the ranks of the region. The region doesn't want criminals or thugs. For that, you must identify yourself upon arrival at the recruitment post. Today, it's very simple to check the civil criminal position of a person, no matter where they come from. But the region was born in 1831. I can hardly see our investigators from 2 centuries ago searching the internet for the position of a Congolese, a Chinese, a Russian. Forging documents was trivial 2 centuries ago. So it's certain that there are a lot of people, many people who have taken advantage of this situation to commit to the foreign region. But to say that the region wanted to hire criminals, that's totally false. Me, personally, just 3 months ago, I was in Rome. I was stopped by Italian soldiers who recognized me. There was a leader who, in front of his men no less, told me, I almost joined the foreign region too. I had passed all the tests, the very hard tests that, you really have to be very... In the end, I wasn't hired because my past wasn't heavy enough. Why did this leader say such a thing? Because there were these men in front of him. They wanted to show that he was, in his opinion, a superman. So there you have it. There are a lot of sorry people. We lose a bit of elegance, a lot of idiots frustrated who are not happy with who they are. So there are cases like this. There are thousands, but hundreds of thousands all over the world. Here is the totally false myth of the mean thug criminal legionnaire is maintained, but it's not true at all. It's really not true. The very common thing among the legionnaires from 2 centuries ago and us, myself and the young legionnaires, is that all of us at some point in our lives have been at odds with society. That's for sure. It doesn't mean we've stolen, raped, or killed someone. That's not what it means to be at odds. It could be the death of someone, it could be a divorce, it could be a disappointed love, I don't know. It could be a deviation from life. At some point, we no longer feel at our place in the middle of society for many reasons. But this does not imply, absolutely does not imply, having done something wrong. I was placed under anonymity, the anonymity that we call declared identity, simply because one of the conditions to be able to be hired in the foreign region is to be single, while I was married. The Legion thought that I could have been hired at this rank. I entered the military security offices as Danilo Pagliaro, and I came out as Prini Pedro, single. You don't change your identity to hide someone from the law, from justice, not at all, not at all, not at all. Changing identity is to protect against certain things. And the fact of being put under anonymity, under declared identity, we can't stay there all our life. Often people are put under declared identity because apparently they are good, they are fine, they have no problem. But the Legion still wants to investigate a little more. They are hired under declared identity like that. There will be no problem. In principle, in the first year, they must resume, if all goes well, they must resume their real identity. How many times I've heard we commit to the Legion, we change identity, we disappear forever? That's false. That, on the other hand, has never been true, not even in the past. A legionnaire who is under declared identity, if he dies, no matter why, how, during service, he resumes his identity. A legionnaire, at the moment he leaves the institution, he will resume his identity. It's not possible to keep, it has never been possible. The Legion, the legionnaires were the first ones who were sent, that's true. Absolutely not because they were or they are cannon fodder, simply before there was compulsory conscription. So when there were all the wars that France fought, in recent things, the Algerian War, the Indochina War, we don't send conscripts against the Viets. We had to send professional soldiers. And 50 years ago, it was legionnaires. But we must not forget the marine troops, what you call the colonial. Very few people know this. But where the Legion has been, the colonial guys were there. And the colonial guys, they are all good French, real purebred French. But they were professional soldiers. And they were on our theaters of operation. Today it's different. The conscripts no longer exist, so France has far fewer men and women under arms. However, everyone is professional. More and more, it is other corps of the French army that are sent to theaters of operations. It's as simple as that. When I enlisted in 1994, the Yugoslav war was ongoing. For 1,000 reasons, I was convinced that I would not have finished my first 5-year contract alive, because I too was in a way subjected to all the collective imagination. And there you go. I discovered the foreign region. And I say this loud and clear with infinite love for this institution and for this country that allows it. I discovered love in the region. Fraternity, tolerance, freedom, democracy. There surely someone will say he has broken some connections. No, no, no. Freedom and democracy. Freedom does not mean now I want to go out, break everything, so I am free. No, no. That's not called either freedom or democracy. Freedom and democracy, there are laws, there are rules, there is a common way of life. You know it's like that. You want to accept it, you come, you accept it, you stay within the limits. and everything will be fine. That's freedom. In addition, we are free. It's true that the discipline is strict, but we are free to go beyond the limits, knowing that if you go beyond the limits, you will be punished. There are no buts, left limit, right limit. Staying within limits ensures success. Out of sight, out of mind, that's really common. And a week later, you can tell your boss, you know, boss, it was me, there will be no problem. But on the spot, out of sight, out of mind, on the other hand, seen, caught, punished. Afterwards, it's up to you, the freedom to choose if you want to take a risk, if you want to be at peace. In the region, there's a reason for punishment that we call too stupid reason. Of course, you can sneak out. But then, if once you're in town, you drink, you party, and when you come back to the neighborhood, you don't even know if you're walking on earth or on your head, and you come in through the main door, then you'll get 2 weeks and you'll get a bit more because you've been too stupid. That's freedom and democracy. Our discipline is not stricter. The military regulations are the same for the French armies. And I repeat, we are part of the French army. In our case, there was the application of the Code of Discipline in the French Armed Forces, French, other than the region. It was a bit floating. Otherwise, the regulation remains unchanged. The missions of the time, it was ex-Yugoslavia precisely, so all of Sarajevo, Kosovo, Bosnia. I was sent to the Central African Republic, to Cameroon. I was sent to Ivory Coast. I was at the 5th Squadron of the 1st Foreign Cavalry Regiment. We were sent twice, it seems to me, to Egypt to work with the Egyptians in their desert. We always participated in what is now called the Sentinel Operation, so the securing of French soil and mainland. It's the normality of things, I mean. A soldier, he is there for that, and a legionnaire too, since a legionnaire is a soldier. Going to battle, it's something of... So it's strange to talk about it because people, those who have never been there, always have this image of you go on an operation. At some point you find yourself in more or less dangerous, more or less tense situations. And there you react accordingly. Then often the question, but were you scared? But you can't be scared. You don't have time to be scared. Afterwards you can be scared. Afterwards you can realize what happened, what could have happened. But the fact that you killed, what does it feel like to kill a man? But it doesn't happen like that. That's in the movies. That's in the imagination of people who have never done things like that. And so they receive these visual information and you elaborate these things. But being here in a studio or being in front of the TV on a sofa, at the show, at your place precisely. Of course, there are things that mark. I saw in Ivory Coast a kid, but really a kid, she could hardly be 10 years old. She had been raped by, I don't know how many people. Of course, it marks you. She was in a terrible state. Obviously, it marks you. I saw people burn. Of course, it marks you. I got shot at. Of course, it marks you. You don't have nightmares. You're not war traumatized like many people who have never done anything want to appear. Because it does. I don't know. There's maybe a charm of the warrior, fighter, traumatized, who has seen, who has done. That's in the movies. In reality, there are people with different sensitivities. So the same episode can mark differently. We, my generation, we also did not do Indochina. We also did not do Algeria. We did not live through all these stories of gratuitous violence, torture, massacre, assault with a bladed weapon. I'd likely speak differently if I experienced that. I speak for my generation and I don't like to talk about it. Not because I've done unspeakable or vile things, far from it. But because anyway, you wouldn't understand. We're speaking a different language. We're talking about another world that doesn't belong to you. And that's all the better. Let the legionnaires do their job. Let the soldiers in general, let your soldiers, let your men and women who have decided to serve France do their job. At one point, I got tired of hearing all the nonsense we hear about the Legion. We have criminals, we have mercenaries. So I wanted to write to say what the Legion is. Afterwards, one can like it or not like it. In no case can one say that what I write is not true. That's why it's often said that it's an autobiography. It's true, but it's false. I never said about my books. In my books, it was told to me that it's in this sense that it's an autobiography. I've always said, I've seen, I've heard, I was there, I've heard, I've done, I've suffered. But it's simply because I want to provide direct testimony. But the subject is the legion. The subject is our foreign legion, which is so poorly known, misunderstood, and sometimes despised, wrongly so. And so I wanted to make it known. If you, the French, knew what you owe to your legionnaires, and if we, the legionnaires, could really understand what we owe to France and to you, the French. Colonel Amir Aklari, commander of the 13th Half Brigade of the Foreign Region during the war, the Second World War, he died at El Alamein. He said, and this is really since I knew him, this motto, and this is my way of behaving. He said, we foreigners, we have only one way, only one means to demonstrate to France our gratitude for the welcome she has given us. Getting killed for her is different from dying for her. Accidents can lead to getting killed for her, but it doesn't mean one must die or get killed. Long live France, and thank you to France, the French, and the Foreign Legion. That's why I wanted to write, to express my immense gratitude. And to let people know that no, it's not true. We are not thugs, criminals. I want to speak. That it's a mission that I have. I don't know if I ever said this, but it's the reality. It's a mission that I gave myself. The Legion didn't ask me anything. I don't even know if they are happy with what I'm telling. The Legion didn't ask me anything. The armed forces even less. France neither. I set myself this mission. I want to speak for those who can no longer do so. I repeat, I did not do the Second World War, Algeria, Indochina. I did not know the bayonet fights with thousands of deaths, fortunately. But I had comrades who died, and they can no longer speak. I have never been a criminal. I joined the Legion for 1,000 personal reasons. But I was a good boy. Touma Tariri, 24 years old, 25 years old, Haitian, died during the war in ex-Yugoslavia. Gunther, quartermaster, sergeant, a bar in his throat in Sarajevo, and how many others? Well, I want to speak for them. They can no longer say it. That's why I wrote. And so, never give up. Why this title? Because we must always move forward. Because you should never give up. Because if you believe, no matter in what, if you believe in something, you have to run at 1,000 kilometers per hour towards your goal. Without fear of falling, you fall, you get up. How many times I hear, yes, but everyone says that. Yes, it's very nice to say. It sets a tone, someone who tells you yes, but you fall 10 times, you get up 11 times. Yes, but then you have to do it. I found myself totally uprooted. I arrived in France. All I knew in French was, do you want to sleep with me tonight? There was the song at the time. I quickly discovered that you shouldn't say that to the duty sergeants because it could have gone wrong. I found myself without a language, culture, or origins. I ended up in the region after my mom passed away and I got divorced. I had no more home. I fell how many times, and well, I got up, thanks to the Legion, of course, but you always have to hang on to something, and once you've got up, you have to start running, charging. You can't say, but before I fell, I broke a leg. It's good. The leg has been repaired. Well, now you don't run any slower. For fear of falling, you fall. You get up another time. You break another time. You get treated. You repair. But you have to live at 1,000 kilos. You see me. I believe in it. Live life at 1,000 kilometers an hour, as everything could end tomorrow. Don't be afraid to question yourself. At 36 years old, I enlisted in one of the toughest military corps in the world. I stayed there for 24 years. I got out at 60 years old. I found nothing better to do than to question myself again. I got the master's degree, my first master's, I got my second master's. Right now, I am doing my doctorate. I am preparing a doctorate in history research. Never be afraid. What will they do and say to me? If I can't make it, I'll push forward. I can't make it, it's not in my language. At most, you will fall trying to get there. Not to die. Falling, that doesn't mean dying. Of course, I'm getting old. I'm 66 years old. Here, I'm in great shape. I do a lot of physical activities. But of course, at some point, I will also have my walker. But we must not suffer this obviousness. We must fight, but in the noble sense of the term. Never give up. That's the whole point of my book, my life, the testimony I want to bring. And long live the foreign region that gave me the opportunity to be here. And France.